They say small towns are quiet, but behind that quiet lie deafening walls of silence. Stories no one tells, scents that never fade, faces that involuntarily resurface in memory, even though they vanished decades ago. Some stories have no ending. They linger for years in folders of unsolved cases. They sit on archive shelves labeled in small letters, closed. But those who were found can no longer speak for themselves. So we will try to speak for them. This is Shadow of Crime, an episode where the pages of old case files come alive 3 times sharper than they ever did in reality. Today, Corinne Perry, 1983, Iowa, a girl who left school and dissolved into the night air, leaving nothing behind, except questions. Note, the information is based on archival sources, sealed court documents, and family statements. Some names and locations have been altered to protect the rights of those involved. Part 1. Sunday evening. Creston, Iowa, April 1983. A Sunday evening in a small town with quiet streets, where most houses lock their doors before sunset. Rarely does anything change here. People have known each other for years. And that's why the disappearance of a teenager doesn't fit the usual fabric of this place. Such things simply aren't supposed to happen here. 17-year-old Corinne Perry, a high school senior, an ordinary girl with a dreamy smile and a future that had only just begun. On the evening of April 17th, she gathers her laundry, gets into her car, and drives to the laundromat. According to friends, she was in good spirits. She hadn't planned anything unusual. Just routine, quickly washing her clothes before Monday. From that moment, like a severed film reel. First anomaly. Her car is found the next morning parked, but empty. Inside, clean laundry, neatly folded. No signs of a struggle, no traces that could hint at what happened. No Corinne, no explanation. Friends and family begin searching first on their own. The police are in no rush to respond. In those years, Iowa had an unspoken rule: 72 hours before declaring someone missing. Before that, no one would consider you gone. In Corinne's case, those hours became critical. The first traces don't appear immediately. Her bag, with personal belongings, is found only 2 weeks later. Abandoned, undamaged, on a bridge several miles outside town. It doesn't look like a robbery, and it certainly doesn't look like an escape. The atmosphere shifts. The Iowa Division of Criminal Investigation, DCI, gets involved, but only after public and media pressure mounts. Corinne's family offers a reward. The local paper publishes appeals. But time passes and no answers emerge. At the site where the bag was found, nothing is recorded that could aid the investigation. It's rural territory, a narrow road, a bridge leading nowhere, and not a soul around. It feels deliberate, unhurried. The feeling grows more oppressive. This wasn't an accident. Someone knew exactly how to vanish without leaving a trace. And worst of all, they could do it again. Part 2. Silence in Iowa. On Tuesday, April 19th, 1983, Corinne Perry, a 17-year-old senior from Muscatine, Iowa, didn't return home after school. For her mother, Catherine Perry, this was unusual. Corinne wasn't the type to stay out without warning. She wasn't a problem child, though in the last few weeks, something had clearly been off. She came home late, withdrawn, avoiding conversation. At first, Catherine thought her daughter had gone to a friend's. The evening passed, then the night, and by the morning of April 20th, she went to the police. The missing person report was filed at 9:47 a.m. The first hours, the officers weren't quick to jump to conclusions. Teen disappearances in the 80s, especially girls, were often classified as voluntary runaways. The standard response: give it 48 hours, she might come back. But Catherine insisted. She was certain Corinne wouldn't leave her younger brother without an explanation. She didn't take any makeup or extra clothes, not even her favorite journal. A patrol was sent to the outskirts of the Perry home, a quiet suburban sector near Highway 61, with typical single-story Iowa houses. Visually, nothing unusual. Neighbors hadn't noticed anything suspicious. One man, Bob Meller, only recalled seeing a dark blue car parked at the intersection the night before, something older, maybe a Buick, but didn't remember the plate. Corinne's identity. The key was understanding Corinne herself. She was a good student, sang in the choir, loved writing. She kept notebooks filled with poetry and fragments of dream journals. Classmates described her as quiet but not odd. Her friend, Cindy Richardson, pointed out one detail. The day before she vanished, Corinne had been acting strangely tense, asking her not to tell her mother where she'd be after school. That was the first red flag. The backpack and the button. On April 21st, 2 days after the disappearance, police received a report. A backpack had been found on the side of a dirt road near the Mississippi River. It was torn on one side. Inside, notebooks, a biology textbook, 2 markers, house keys, and a button. Officers noted it as evidence of a struggle or an item lost due to sudden movement. The fabric had traces of dirt, wet, dark, clay-like. This location was 6 miles from the Perry home. The investigation begins in earnest. After this discovery, police upgraded the case to missing under suspicious circumstances. Detective James Collins, who specialized in cold cases, was assigned. Collins conducted initial interviews with friends and teachers. It emerged that, a few days before vanishing, Corinne had visited the library and requested philosophy books, specifically on identity and dissociation of self. In class, she often drew symbols, among them, a spiral triangle and something resembling the Greek letter omega. She had told a friend several times that she wasn't sure if she was the same person she'd been a month ago. Strange? Yes, but not enough to immediately suggest a cult or conspiracy. Though the detective noted, unstable identity, possible psychological shifts. Part 3. Cold Traces, Corinne's Journal. As of April 23, 1983, the investigation officially took on the status, missing person under suspicious circumstances. Detective Collins decided to focus not just on geographical searches but also on understanding Corinne Perry's psychological profile. It was at this point that one of the most significant pieces of evidence was introduced: her personal journal, found by her mother in her desk drawer. The journal's appearance: a thick black notebook, 96 pages, roughly A5 sized. Entries were made in different colored pens and markers. On the back cover, a drawing of a stylized female silhouette with the inscription, "I don't disappear, I just shift." The text was structured, not a stream of consciousness, but rather a collection of fragments. Some pages were meticulously crossed out. On a few, geometric symbols that later drew FBI interest. Key excerpts. March 6, 1983. After sleep, I don't recognize myself in the mirror right away. It's not fear, not horror, just a strange fascination. Maybe I have multiple versions of me, and each wakes up in turn. March 10th, 1983. Today, I felt like someone was watching me from inside. Eyes without a body. Maybe it's me, looking outward from within? I don't know. March 15th, 1983. Some names no longer sound familiar. Even my own reads like someone else's. Words blur, like fingers underwater. March 29th, 1983. I asked the librarian for a book on masks. She gave me something about Greeks and drama. But I need a different mask. One that doesn't come off, but grows on. April 1st, 1983. He said my name is temporary, that each of us has another name we've forgotten, and it must be reclaimed before we disappear for good. April 5th, 1983. I saw them, not sure if it was a dream or just before dawn. Standing by the school, 3 of them. One was smiling. I just knew they weren't new. They're older. They were there before the school. April 9th, 1983. This notebook is my anchor. If I stay, I want to remember how it smelled after rain, how ice cracks on puddles, what color the snow was on the morning walk to school. These things are real, right? April 14th, 1983. Tomorrow, if he comes, I'll go, just to see if it's true. Maybe I should have done it long ago. Interpretation. Detective Collins immediately called in an FBI profiler, Agent Clara Hensley, who specialized in adolescent dissociation cases. Her assessment: the girl might have exhibited symptoms of dissociative disorder, possibly even early psychosis, but the level of logic in her writing didn't fit a classic case. Her entries resembled structured self-conditioning. She clearly felt influenced by something or someone external, the idea of repetition, observation, transformation. Clara made a crucial observation. This isn't a typical runaway case. She wasn't running. She was undergoing an initiation. But what group or idea could have influenced this remains unclear. The school connection. After analyzing the journal, attention turned to Muscatine High School. Interviews with 47 students revealed most knew her only superficially. She was quiet, non-confrontational, not part of any active school clubs except choir. But one exception stood out. Her literature teacher, Mr. Douglas Pearson, recalled that Corinne often stayed after class, asking unusual questions about the essence of character, the author's role as God, and whether a heroine could choose to be secondary instead of main. His words, recorded in the report. Sometimes it seemed she didn't want to be herself, not out of shame, but rather some rigid intellectual discipline, like an actress who doesn't believe in her role but keeps playing it because it's part of a larger design. Part 4. Hypnosis, Darkness, and the Map. Previous attempts to trace Corinne Perry's last movements had yielded minimal results. But one of the most unexpected leads in the investigation came through her mother, Elizabeth Perry, who, after her daughter's disappearance, began seeing a local therapist, Dr. Francis Sherman. What started as routine therapy soon evolved into hypnotic sessions. Hypnosis, official assessment, and early results. In the 1980s, the FBI occasionally used hypnosis in missing persons cases, though its effectiveness remained controversial. In Corinne's case, hypnosis wasn't part of the official investigation, but Sherman's notes were later voluntarily handed over to detectives. The sessions were conducted over 2 weeks. Excerpt from Session 2, April 27, 1983. Sherman, are you in the house? Elizabeth, yes. The light is dim. I see her. She's by the window. Sherman, is she speaking? Elizabeth, no. She's writing something. Then she looks at me, but she doesn't recognize me. Sherman, what does she say? Elizabeth, she says, this isn't me. I've already left. Despite the controversial nature of such data, Sherman convinced Detective Collins to look beyond just the physical locations Corinne had visited, to also consider places mentioned in her memories, dreams, or associated with her anxiety. This led to the idea of creating a mental map rather than a standard route. The map, assembling secondary routes. Police consulted a local amateur cartographer, Harold Murphy, who helped draft an alternate map based on school records, where and when she skipped classes, library logs, neighbor testimonies, family phone records obtained through Iowa Bell. 3 unusual locations emerged. An abandoned hangar on South 5th, and used since the 1960s, not listed in public records. An old pumping station on the outskirts of Muscatine, long since decommissioned. The bridge between Muscatine and Wilton, where a female figure resembling Corinne had been spotted at night, partially corroborated by a trucker's testimony. Darkness and the smell. Separate from the map was a strange detail in Elizabeth Perry's hypnotic recollections, a shift from visual to sensory memories. Under hypnosis, she repeatedly described a resinous smell, like burning wood. Darkness not like night, but something deep, dense. Silence with an echo, like being inside an empty concrete tank. These descriptions matched accounts from local teens who hung out near the abandoned pumping station. One of them, Brian H., said, "It's weird there. The silence is different. If you say something, it sounds like someone else's voice." This coincidence led police to the station, searching the pumping station. On April 26th, around 2 p.m., officers Rawls and Mendez arrived at the site. Inside, they found candle wax residue, a partially burned notebook with the legible phrase, "Identity is fluid. Reality is not." A metal hoop, likely from a barrel. Strands of hair matching Corinne's color, samples sent for analysis, later lost in 1995. Most critically, fingerprints on a metal fragment matched Corinne Perry's, confirming her presence at the location. First signals from the FBI. After this discovery, the case was transferred to the Bureau. Corinne's disappearance was temporarily coded CP-MUS 83/1. Key findings. The burned notebook didn't belong to Corinne. It appeared to be part of some kind of collection. Graffiti on one wall. Mi non riconosco Italian 4. I don't recognize myself. Old sheets resembling group therapy notes. but signed with aliases like M2, T4, Guest. This led investigators to an alternative therapy group operating in Muscatine between 1981 to 1983 without a license. Their trail went cold, but county records contained a few mentions. Part 5. Therapy Without Permission, the Unregistered Group. After the pumping station discovery, attention shifted to the mysterious group referenced in archives as the Inner Cleansing Group, though most records simply called it the group. Documentary evidence. In April 1983, social worker Claire Fontaine, employed at Muscatine General Hospital, filed a memo stating, "Multiple patients have reported emotional destabilization after attending an unlicensed therapeutic group that met in abandoned buildings, including the pumping station on Muscatine's southern exit. Sessions involved candles, repeated mantras, and questions designed to alter identity." The memo was dated April 2, 1983, 2 weeks before Corinne vanished. It was only added to the case file in 1989 during a medical records audit. Who were the members? Most names remain unknown, but 2 individuals stood out. Theo Mauru, 31, former philosophy student at the University of Iowa, expelled for behavior causing concern among peers. Worked as a laborer in Muscatine in 1982. Mary S. Jones, 38, social activist who ran personal awakening seminars in a Lincoln Avenue church hall. Lost her license in 1981 after complaints of emotional coercion of minors. A health department employee noted the group wasn't registered but held meetings every 10 days, often changing locations. Their stated purpose: reclaiming the true self through personality deconstruction. Methods: what happened in sessions. From witness accounts: dark rooms, lit only by candles. A circle of chairs with a silent facilitator in one. Sessions lasted 2 to 3 hours, beginning with, "Release yourself, because you are not you." Participants were asked personal questions in loops until they felt emotionally detached from their answers. Ended with conscious cleansing, each stating who they were not. One report mentioned some participants lost the ability to speak for hours afterward, but no medical records confirmed this, as none sought official treatment. Was Corinne there? No direct proof, but the hair found at the station matched hers. An anonymous 2003 witness recalled a very young red-haired girl who wore a green sweater with patches. A fall 1982 photo showed Corinne in such a sweater. Handwriting on the burned notebook matched Corinne's school journal, confirmed by a 1984 graphologist and re-examined in 1998. Behavioral clues: Corinne's changes before disappearing. School psychologist Grace Malkin noted days before the disappearance. Corinne's behavior has shifted. She avoids eye contact, barely responds to questions. Looks like she's waiting for something. Sometimes, like she's already not here. Additionally, a week before vanishing, she returned all her library books, even those checked out months prior. The librarian recalled. She stood silently, placing them back one by one. Didn't answer when asked why. This ritual act, as psychologists later called it, suggested either the end of a cycle or a goodbye. The vanished archive. In 1987, county prosecutors briefly reopened an investigation into the group, but under pressure from civil groups calling it a witch hunt, the case was closed. The case file 7413 C disappeared. The archive log still lists it, but none of the 87 pages were ever found. A clerk remarked in 2001. The file was there, but it's like someone turned it off from reality. Part 6. The bridge leading into night. The last traces. April 17, 1983. The Iowa air thickens with early spring dampness after sunset. Temperature hovers near 50 degrees Fahrenheit, a light river breeze, cloudless sky. A perfect night to disappear, if such a thing could ever be called perfect. It was on this night, according to multiple witnesses, that a girl resembling Corinne Perry was seen on the railroad bridge between Muscatine and Wilton. The structure, officially closed to pedestrians, was a skeletal relic. No lights, its wooden planks rotted by time and moisture. The last sighting. Witness 1. Jack Henderson, 42, truck driver, official statement given the next morning. Must have been past 9. I noticed someone near the bridge railing. At first, figured it was just some local kid waiting for friends. But she wasn't moving, just staring down. I slowed down an instinct, I guess. By the time I pulled over, she was gone. When police brought Henderson back days later, he pointed to a spot near the bridge's third section. Investigators found a crumpled scrap of paper with a partially rain-smudged phone number out of service. A silver hairpin identical to one Corinne wore in her 1983 school photo. Witness 2, Janice Reynolds, 17, high school student. I was walking home from drama club around 10. Saw a girl near the bridge facing away. Everything was too quiet. She didn't turn, didn't react. Like she couldn't hear me. This confirmed the figure had been there for at least 30 to 40 minutes, if it was Corinne. No other missing persons matched the description. The search, water, and weather. The Cedar River's water levels were high from recent rains, but the current wasn't strong enough to immediately carry away a body. For 5 days, teams combed both banks with boats, dogs, and divers. Nothing. No signs of a fall. No splashes reported that night. No clothing or remains recovered. The police report noted, accidental fall unlikely due to 3-foot guardrails. A deliberate act would have required climbing over, impossible to do silently. The paradox of presence. Physical evidence was scant. No DNA, no photographs. But the psychological imprint of that night lingered. In a friend's notebook, a page dated April 17th contained Corinne's handwriting. Tomorrow is just a date, but today, I'm still here. Her bedroom remained untouched. On the nightstand, Albert Camus' The Stranger opened to a page where the protagonist says, "That night when everything became inevitable, I finally felt part of the world." The last confirmed sighting of Corinne was at home on April 17th at 6:40 p.m., when she told her mother, "I need to take a walk. I'll be back soon." The police conclusion, or lack thereof. The 1983 final report stated, no evidence Corinne Perry was victimized. No evidence she left town. We are left with a case where the absence of traces is the most terrifying trace of all. Status: unsolved. Missing. In 1999, she was declared presumed dead. Part 7. Echoes. Traces that shouldn't exist. 1984 to 1989. The retrospective void. After active searches ended in May 1983, the case went dormant. Sheriff Steve Gardner bluntly stated in 1984, "We're not closing it, but we're not reopening it either. We've got silence." For 5 years, no leads emerged. Annual reviews were mere formalities. Critical note: 1986 internal memo. Primary evidence, hairpin, paper scrap, soil samples, was improperly preserved. DNA testing now unlikely. The 1990s, the call phenomenon. In 1992, Muscatine PD received a series of anonymous calls from a Riverside Park payphone. She's where they looked, but they weren't looking right. Surveillance yielded nothing. Calls stopped after 2 weeks. The calls birthed local legends. Teens visited the bridge with tape recorders, hoping to hear her voice. A 1995 low-budget documentary linked them to ritual groups, but no evidence supported this. 2001, the delayed memory. 18 years later, Tommy Gilbert, age 12 in 1983, came forward. That night, I saw a figure leading a girl onto the bridge. I hid in bushes, thought they were adults. Now I think it was her. Unverifiable. Detective Thomas Grayson noted. If true, this suggests Corinne didn't act alone. 2013, false hope. Construction workers near the bridge found female bones and shoes in 2013. FBI analysis confirmed. Remains belong to a woman aged 25 to 35. Death occurred between 1998 to 2001. No DNA match to the Perry family. 2020 to 2023, cold case reawakening. Under public pressure, the case was reopened. Key actions. Digitization of archives. Rechecking DNA against national databases, no hits. Interviews with retired investigators. A former teacher, Sandra Mitchell, provided a 1983 note from Corinne. I'm drawn to the idea of ceasing to be someone. Just watching people go somewhere. I don't want to run. I want to vanish truly, without words. Internet Theories 2021 to 2022. Reddit's true crime community speculated. Escape theory. Corinne fled with help from a teacher linked to California. 1985, Sacramento parade photo. A blurry figure resembled her. No verifiable proof. 2025, the unresolved threshold. As of this writing, case remains officially open but inactive. Muscatine PD Captain statement. We're not shutting the door, but we don't know where it leads. Part 8. After her, the ghost of Corinne Perry. A mother's voice, 30 years later. In a 2013 interview, 73-year-old Joan Perry said, "I'm not the mother of a missing child. I'm the mother of a shadow. She's in every mirror, every unopened door. She keeps Corinne's journal but cannot read one entry. Meaning wasn't what I sought. I just wanted to disappear the right way." The Divided Class, 2003 reunion. At their 20-year reunion, Corinne's classmates left one empty chair. Steve McNeil, class of '83, admitted, "We don't talk about her. Because this isn't a scary story. It's our failure. Someone knew something. No one spoke. Several moved away, not from fear, but from the weight of a town that looked away from Corinne." Cultural Echoes. 2018 book, Silent River. The disappearance of Corinne Perry included leaked case documents. 2021 Netflix docuseries Vanished in the Midwest focused on emotional impact over facts. 2022 podcast Cold Echo analyzed her final letter for suicidal subtext. Conclusion: anxious, but not explicitly self-destructive. The town that remembers, without speaking. Muscatine in the 2020s remains unchanged. Same bridge, same silence. Near the railing where Corinne may have vanished, a white face is sporadically painted on concrete. Authorities cover it. It reappears. A local forum post reads, "I don't know who draws it, but every time I pass it, I feel like she never left." The final police entry. The last official mention was a 2023 press release. Case MX83-174. C remains open. No new leads. We stand ready to act on any credible information. Epilogue. The unfinished story. This isn't a tale of murder or even crime. It's about absence. A girl who walked home from school and became part of the landscape. About how memories fade, but the truth stays quiet. About disappearances that defy explanation. Corinne Perry vanished, but we're still searching. Not for her for meaning. Over 40 years later, the town lives on. The bridges stand. The rivers flow. Her name isn't in headlines or on memorials. Yet her presence lingers in drawn curtains, in conversation pauses, in the silence between words. This was Corinne's story. It isn't over. Because as long as someone remembers, she hasn't fully disappeared. Shadow of Crime will keep searching, even when the trail has long gone cold.